What's happening, everybody, and welcome into our NFL Divisional Round edition of Anytime Touchdown Score Bet Recommendations. Danny Burke here with Odd Shopper. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you're ready for some bets coming your way. We have a handful of them after a brutal effort last week, and hopefully we can get back into the winning column, and we will start with Saturday's action, Kansas City, Houston. Let's talk about Travis Kelce, a man who has been very, very disappointing when it's come to finding the end zone or lack thereof for the veteran tight end this season on Kansas City. Despite only having 3 touchdowns on the year, he still leads the team in red zone targets with 26. Of those 26 targets, he's hauled in 19 for a $106 yards wise. And like I mentioned, just 3 receiving touchdowns. As you can see on the screen, he's plus 150 at BetMGM, DraftKings, Hard Rock to score touchdown against the Houston Texans, a team that's allowed 8 total touchdowns to opposing tight ends this season. It's a pretty good amount. Now, Houston on average is giving opposing tight ends over 4 receptions for 42 receiving yards per game. And where Houston is very vulnerable. Now, they're a really good defense, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the red zone, very vulnerable against the pass, giving up almost 2 passing touchdowns per game and just 0.6 rushing touchdowns this year. We know the Kansas City backfield isn't really that lethal. I mean, they're fine. They get the job done when they need to with the mix of now Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. But in the postseason and with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, yeah, you're going to put a little bit more faith into the action in the air, especially against a defense that has been very susceptible to giving up these passing touchdowns. And Travis Kelce, despite what has happened in the regular season, or again, lack thereof, he comes alive in the postseason. I mean, he's just a completely different beast. We all know this. The star players really come through and stand up and pull their weight in these moments. Travis Kelce in 19 career playoff games has just as many touchdowns. Let's hope he can extend it to 20 in a favorable matchup. I like him plus 150 to score in that first game. We will stick with the Kansas City Chiefs for our second play here, and that's going to go to the second leading receiver in the red zone, Xavier Worthy. A much better price here, plus 210 at FanDuel for Worthy, who I mentioned is second on the team in red zone targets with 18. Of those 18, he's holding 11 receptions, 77 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Now, that's just in the red zone. He has 2 more receiving touchdowns outside of their opponent's 20-yard line. Plus, he has an additional 3 rushing touchdowns on the year. So that's a dynamic threat you get from Worthy. His speed and elusiveness allows the Chiefs to use him for screenplays, passes downfield, or they can hand it off to him, do some kind of swing route as well in any kind of capacity that they want. I mean, that's the creativity of having Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and then the speed of Xavier Worthy. And they're giving us better than 2-1 on someone who's been a consistent red zone threat, especially in the latter half of this season. Love our chances here with the top 2 receiving threats on Kansas City to find the end zone against a vulnerable secondary that Houston possesses when it comes to them defending their end zone. So let's go ahead and also take a stab at Xavier Worthy plus 210 to score. Travis Kelce plus 150 are 2 bets for that first game. We'll move on to the second game on Saturday. And this man, Sam Laporta, we're going with another tight end. He is plus 155 at DraftKings to find the end zone against the Washington Commanders. Washington has allowed a touchdown on 12.3% of its receptions to tight ends, which is the most in the league. Yes, the most. 12.3% of its receptions allowed to tight ends result in a touchdown. They've also given up 8 total touchdowns to tight ends this season. On average, 4 receptions, 40 receiving yards per game to tight ends do the Commanders allow, and 1.5 passing touchdowns each game. Now, I get it. Montgomery back in the mix. Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute stud. Sonic and Knuckles, they're going to want to feed them the ball. Washington's run defense is awful. So, yeah, Sonic and Knuckles will have a great chance to score, and they likely will, but the value isn't really there. I see more value for Sam Laporta at plus 155, who is second on the team in red zone targets with 19, 5 touchdowns in the red zone, 11 receptions, 80 yards. Overall, he has 7 touchdowns on the year. And again, Washington very susceptible against that position group. Stochastic's DFS projections give Sam Laporta the second highest probability among receivers to score this weekend. So I like the angle here with Laporta. Again, the running back situation makes a lot of sense with Sonic and Knuckles, but not as much value. I see it a little bit more so with Laporta. So let's snag him at plus 155 to score a touchdown against the Commanders. also in that plus 150 or so range. Let's move on to Sunday. AJ Brown, the book reading receiver. Yeah, that's what he was caught doing in their first playoff game instead of catching touchdown passes. Hopefully that reverses and he's able to get into the end zone this time around. Plus 150 at BetMGM for Brown to score, plus 150 at DraftKings. Now, in the red zone this season, Devontae Smith actually has one more target, but A.J. Brown's right behind him with 11, 7 receptions, 51 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. Now, A.J. Brown dominated the Rams the first go around. And we know what this Rams secondary is. Despite what Darnold didn't do last week and how bad he looked, that's not really the true representation of the Rams secondary. It's a secondary that ranked 28th in dropback EPA in the regular season and allowed 2 passing touchdowns per game. And in that matchup against them earlier this year, A.J. Brown, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 109 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Now, especially after everything that happened with A.J. Brown on the sideline, reading the dang book that's now a bestseller, he's going to get more attention. And it's the playoffs, so it's not like they're going to go out of their way. I mean, he's the number 1 receiver and the next best player aside from Saquon Barkley. He needs to get emphasized. He should. It's the postseason. He's one of your best players and best receiving threats. Get him the ball against this bad secondary in Los Angeles and one that he carved up earlier this year. I think it's a good bounce back game for him, and I'm banking on him scoring at plus 150 to prove that it is a good get right spot for him. Our final play, a guy we took last week, did not come through, but now we're getting a completely different price. That is Josh Allen to score at plus 110 at BetMGM, DraftKings, Fanatics. Man, I mean, he was like in the minus 120s last week against the Denver Broncos. A great defense, especially against the run, but they completely dominated. He didn't need to do too much on his own when it came to the red zone. Still, he carried the ball 8 times for 46 yards. In Baltimore now is a defense that's also very strong against the run, allowing fewer than 1 rushing touchdown per game. But much like my sentiment last week, I mean, it's the playoffs. So Josh Allen is going to want to put a lot of the pressure on himself and take control of things in these big moments. And if James Cook can't find success, and I said this last week and it wasn't the case, but against Baltimore now, a much better team than Denver, if James Cook can't find his way into the end zone, use the bigger body in the more reliable threat running it in Josh Allen, who's much harder to stop under center when he's running it in. And now we're getting a plus price. Big difference because he didn't score last week, and presumably this is a tougher matchup against the Ravens. So, yeah, I like Josh Allen a lot here. He's getting a ton of reps with his red zone snap count in terms of rushing attempts. And that price difference is very, very attractive in a spot where I think we'll see plenty of Josh Allen. So give me him, Josh Allen, plus 110 to score against the Baltimore Ravens. Those are the players I'm rocking with for anytime touchdown score bets in the divisional round of the postseason. Josh Allen plus 110, A.J. Brown plus 150, Laporta plus 155. We had Xavier Worthy at that plus 210 price, and then Travis Kelce in that plus 150 range as well. As always, make sure you leave in the comments below who you're sweating out for an anytime touchdown bet, and we'll root on all of them together. Make sure you follow on Twitter at DannyBurke5. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to all of my plays over at Tails. It's where we dish out all our plays. You can use promo code Burke50 first week or month, 50% off if you use that code. Folks, the NBA has been on fire for us as of late. Last 3 days, I've gone 16-3, over 11 units gained in that span on the season, 270, 179 in the NBA, up over 56 units. Awesome stuff happening with PortfolioEV that's helping me with my plays. We got plenty more in the NFL. Like I said, NBA has been great. So I implore you to join. If not me, somebody else, check it out. oddshopper.com. All right. Best of luck. Enjoy all the action throughout the NFL divisional round, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care, folks.